Hey there, welcome to Yoga Physio Zone. This is number 2 in my hypermobility series of classes, and this is going to be a class about working in poses on all fours. Now, I don't suggest that you do this entire class from beginning to end because there's quite a lot of pressing onto your hands and your wrists. So I'd rather that you just dipped in and out of this and maybe try this in conjunction with one of the other classes. And maybe said, all right, I'll work on 1 or 2 poses on all fours today as well. But I'll go through a series of about 5 different poses in the all fours position. So in other words, all fours. And we'll talk about the different considerations for people with hypermobility. So when you are putting your weight on your hands and your knees like that, first thing is if you need to put padding under your knees, please do so. Always makes life a little bit easier. The next thing is when you are putting weight through your palms, try and put the weight through the bases of your fingers, so that area there, and particularly the index finger and the thumb, because you have more stability there. If you need to come up on your knuckles, do that too, because particularly if you are hyperflexible, you may find that you really don't have the stability in your hands to actually comfortably allow you in that position. And obviously, if you have shoulder problems and you just can't take the weight through your shoulders, well then you may have to leave this section until you've had your shoulders sorted, or you can gradually see if you can work your way through it without aggravating your shoulder. You're going to have to make a call on that yourself, but you should not be provoking pain during a yoga class, and you certainly shouldn't be painful afterwards. If that's the case, then there's something about that class that is not right for you. So just be aware of that. Now, here we are, we're on all fours. We're taking weight through our hands. The next thing for you guys is to not straighten your elbows fully. Because you are hypermobile, most people with hypermobility, when they straighten their elbows not only straighten, but they kind of curl backwards. So they have a little bit too much of that movement. And what we're trying to do is not get to the end range, the end extent of your straightening, but to maybe go to about 90%. So this will feel to you as if your elbows are bent, but actually when the likes of me look at you, we'll probably be seeing a straight elbow. So don't go to 100%, the very end of my elbow straightening. Keep them just a notch bent, just a notch, okay? And that's enough to create a muscle activation up the arm. The next thing is when you are putting weight on all fours, excuse me, you want to roll your arms around, so your entire shoulder rolling around. So the elbows aren't facing in, they are facing forward. So the creases of the elbows are, for me, they're facing forwards. For some of you guys, they might be going off at a bit of an angle. But that is your basic starting position when you're in all fours. And that will activate the muscles of your arms, your shoulder blades. It will also protect your elbows and your shoulders from kind of leaning too much on the joint aspect of your joints. Okay? So let's do that. Let's just get into that all fours position. Here we are, all fours, putting the weight on the bases of our fingers, rolling our arms around, not straightening 100%, and looking forwards and just holding that position, and maybe seeing how many breaths you can do. Can you keep the elbows activated, or are they getting tired? And if they're getting tired, well then that really shows you this is something that you need to work on. And you need to work on this before you get to the likes of like the downward dogs. You need to have good activation here, okay? So even just holding that position can be enough. Holding maybe for 3 breaths, 4 breaths, and then coming back and taking a bit of a break. And this is what I mean. Don't do this class from start to finish. Pick 1 or 2 poses out of this to work. So that's the basic 4-point kneeling. That is where we start. Okay, now let's add something into that. So we're going to get into that basic position again, putting the weight on particularly the index finger and the thumb, rolling the arms around so that the elbow creases are facing forwards, not straightening the elbows 100%, maybe about 90%. And we are going to add in a shoulder shrug to that. So what I'm doing with my shoulder shrug is I'm just pushing the ground away from me, pushing the ground away from me, and lifting my chest away from the ground a little bit and then letting it drop. So it's literally just as if my heart or my chest area is just going down and up, but I am keeping my elbows at that 90% straight position. For me, mine are 100% straight, but you know where I'm coming from in this one. And that really, really, really works. Whew, I can really feel that around my shoulder blades, okay? So that really works the shoulder blade muscles, okay? So that's a really good one for activating the shoulders and the arm muscles, okay? And that's the shoulder shrug. Now the next version, I suppose, the next pose that you will see a lot of when you're on all fours is the cat-cow, which is, I suppose, a progression, if you like, of the shoulder shrug. And with this one, you're actually going to be lifting your belly up. So it's not like you're lifting the chest up, you are actually lifting the belly up towards the ceiling and back down. So it's this kind of movement. And we'll go through that in a minute. Okay, but for you, once again, you really have to watch that you are getting the weight correctly through your elbows and that you're not overextending into them. So let's get our arm position straight. Arm position straight. Pressing into the bases of our fingers, rolling our arms forwards so that the creases and the elbows are facing forwards. Not in a 100% elbow straightened position, but maybe 90% straightened position, and that is our starting position for the cat-cow. Now, drop your head and look back towards your feet, lift your belly button towards the sky and press into the mat with your hands. That's the angry cat. And then drop the belly, stick the bum out behind you and look forwards. And let's do that again. Press the mat away from you, lift the belly towards the ceiling, look back towards your feet, and then drop the belly, stick the bum out behind you and look forwards. Let's do that once more. Press the ground away from you, lift the belly up towards the ceiling, look back towards your feet, and then drop the belly, stick the bum out behind you and look forwards. And all the time, trying to control our elbow so that it's not dropping into a fully extended position, but that it's staying just a notch bent and making the muscles work really hard of our arms and our shoulder blades. So that is the cat-cow. Now I wanted to add in a little bit of a strengthening for our lower back. So a lot of that has been arm work so far, but what if we wanted to strengthen our lower back and our bum muscles in this position? Well, there are a few exercises to do here as well. So possibly don't do this the same day that you have done the cat-cow or, you know, the shoulder shrugs, because your arms will be kind of sore from doing that. And we want to give all our attention to our bum muscles. So let us come onto the all forward position, putting the weight onto the index finger and the thumb, rolling our arms around, elbows not 100% straight. So our job now is just to hold that hand position while we do a bit of a tiger curl. So we're going to lift our left leg behind us, bringing the toes towards the ceiling, and then bringing it back down, and then while we arch our back, bringing that knee towards our elbow. So our main thing here is to keep really strong with our arms, but lifting the lower back. Or should I say, lifting the leg and working the lower back muscles. So there we go. So that does involve a bit of arm activity as well. Let's do that on the other side. So giving ourselves a break, once again pressing into the hands, rolling the shoulders around so that the elbow creases are forwards. and then lifting the other leg up into the air. See if you can lift the toes towards the ceiling and back down. Toes towards the ceiling and back down. Toes towards the ceiling and back down. So really activating your bum muscles. So that is the basis of a tiger curl. The true tiger curl, there's a little bit more range involved, but let's get started on just kind of the basic leg lifting there. Okay. Which brings me to another great pose, often called fire hydrant. So it's a dog peeing against a fire hydrant, as it is called in America, or a dog peeing on a lamp post. Okay, so once again, this is going to be working the lower back muscles, really the bum muscles, your glute muscles as well. But there is a bit of arm activation as well. So do not do this on the same day that you've done a lot of other ones on all fours. Okay? Otherwise, your hands will get sore and your wrists will get sore and your elbows will get sore. So don't go there. So here we go. Fire hydrant. Fire hydrant, you guys. Placing our hands into that position that we now know, where we are putting the our weight on the bases of our fingers. We are rolling the arms around so that the elbow creases are facing forwards, and we are not straightening our elbows. We are bringing them to about 90% of straight. And then holding that position really strongly, lifting up our leg. Let's go left leg first to the side and back down. So we are a dog having a pee against a lamp post. Lifting up, back down. Really activates the muscles, the kind of the glute median at the side of your hip. If you need to come up on your knuckles, and at this stage I actually do have to, my wrists are getting a bit tired, but that's because I'm doing this class all in one go and you're not going to do that. Okay, do the same with the other leg, lifting out. So really trying to use our arms, keeping the arms activated in such a way so that the elbow creases are still facing forwards while you are lifting the leg out to the side. While you are lifting the leg out to the side. Nice one. Lifting the leg out to the side. Fire hydrant. A great one for these muscles here on our haunch. So the next pose I wanted to talk to you about was downward dog. Okay, so with downward dog, and this is one you see a lot of, and as you progress in yoga you'll be doing a lot more downward dogs because eventually apparently it becomes a rest pose, but this is the kind of, let's say, downward dog. Okay, and I suppose I give these instructions for all people, not just for you guys with the hyperflexibility. But in this pose, getting your core activated first is really important for the lift off. Okay, so that pelvic floor, that sucking up of the pelvic floor, as if you're trying to just pull it up into the center of you, and then you're pulling your belly button in and up. Now, not 100%. You don't want to be like squeezing so hard that you can't breathe. You want like about a 50 or 60% of an activation when your belly is being pulled in and then up and under. So it's like as if you're activating an inner core, your deep flexor training muscles actually. So that's what you're trying to do. So I think getting that activated before you're doing the lift is really important. And you may not be able to get up to a full lift straight off, so it might just be that you're kind of lifting and coming back down. But let's go through this. So come onto all fours. And we are now going to walk our hands one hand breadth forward. So it's not directly under the shoulder, it's one hand's breadth forward. So here we are. And we are going to roll our hands around into that position where the creases are facing forward. And it can be very hard to maintain that during the lift. So just be aware of that. You're trying to keep the weight on the bases of your fingers and keep the rotation of the arm somewhat rolled forwards and trying to keep the elbows in that 90-95% straightened position, but not fully straightened, at least until you have better strength. Then you can progress to being into a fully straightened elbow position. So here we go. We're going to tuck our toes under. Let's activate our pelvic floor before we go any further. So pulling up, sucking up on the pelvic floor, pulling in the belly and up under the rib cage, and holding that while you drop your bum towards your heels ever so slightly, and then push your hands and feet into the mat and lift your knees up. Okay, now this might be all you'll be able to do, and maybe that's as far, and maybe you come back down again, and that is fine. If you can go forwards, or should I say farther, well then that's fine too. So you've got everything activated, you've activated your pelvic floor, you're lifting up, and then what you do when you've got your bum lifted up is see if you can push your bum away from your hands. So in other words, push your hands into the ground, get lengthening the position between your hips and your hands, and then dropping your heels, and there you are in downward dog. Don't ever overstay your welcome in downward dog. This is a really good one. This really is activating my arm muscles now, because I'm really trying to keep my elbows in a somewhat straightened position and keeping my arms activated. But looking back towards my heels, and of course, as usual, if there's any dizziness or anything, you come straight back down. You just don't go there. And enjoying downward dog and coming back down. Okay, that's one that takes a bit of time. There's a lot to work on, and yes, you can work on your hamstring flexibility and do all kinds of things in downward dog. It takes a good while to get that into a fairly comfortable pose. But for the hyperflexible people of the world, your main consideration is that you're not jamming into your shoulder or your elbow joints, but that you're actually getting a really nice arm activation as you were doing that. So that is the poses on all fours, and as I said, don't do them all in one go. Just dip in and out of them. Try one or two of those at a time. And it takes time to be able to get your hands comfortable, and particularly protect your hands, don't overdo it, and come up on your knuckles if you need to. So keep yourself comfortable with all those yoga poses, and I will talk to you in my third class of the series, which is going to be sitting poses. So I will talk to you then, and take care.